Prime Minister Modi generally is believed to be a man of action, especially when it comes to engaging with the global leaders. India's outreach to the world has immensely increased after 2014. This is not only for us to say, but for the world to say. He was on a state visit to Seychelles. After that, he met the Japanese Prime Minister for the 16th India-Japan Summit. Post that summit, he travelled to 3 countries. The first, Indonesia, second, Australia, and third, New Zealand. In this video series, we will be covering the details of every visit. We've covered Seychelles and Japan. Now we will be covering Indian Prime Minister's visit to Indonesia in this particular video. Indonesia, a country in Southeast Asia, is a very significant country in terms of its location. It is also significant in terms of its economic growth rate. Indonesia is part of the ASEAN group, that is Association for Southeast Asian Nations. Indonesia has the Strait of Malacca passing through its vicinity. Strait of Malacca is the world's one of the busiest trade routes. Strait of Malacca, the trade route on which China relies upon heavily. China has this Malacca dilemma, which signifies that China feels that any country, for example USA or India or any other country, can block its trade from the Strait of Malacca, because Chinese exports to West Asia, South Asia, Africa and Europe pass through the Strait of Malacca, and it is passing through the vicinity of Indonesia. So this highlights Indonesia's importance in the current mix of geopolitics. In this video, we will decode what is, the list of outcomes which were decided in Indonesia, multiple outcomes. How have been our ties? How was this overall visit of the Prime Minister to this country, Indonesia? So let's get started. And as you can see on the board, Indonesia rolls out a red carpet for PM Modi. Red carpet welcome means a very, very warm welcome. And this type of welcome is given to important dignitaries. Now, he was there in Indonesia, and from Indonesia he had to travel to Australia and then to New Zealand. In this video, we'll focus on Indonesia. Next videos we'll cover on Australia and New Zealand. So India and Indonesia enjoy comprehensive strategic partnership. This is from 2018 onwards. However, from 2005 onwards, we enjoy strategic partnership. So 2005 strategic partnership, 2018 comprehensive strategic partnership. Strategic partnership, as we know, is a multi-dimensional partnership with one of the compulsory dimensions as defense partnership. Defense partnership means defense trade and exercises, agreements like intelligence sharing agreements and such like. So we have this comprehensive strategic partnership with Indonesia, which is in itself very important. Now, when he arrived in Indonesia, there was this official reception where the President Prabowo Subianto himself was there to receive him. Senior Indonesian ministers were there. Indian ambassador to Indonesia and members of the Indian diaspora were present. We have a significant diaspora in that country. We have diaspora in around 200 countries of the world. India has the biggest diaspora in the world, or the largest diaspora in the world, and Indonesia definitely has members of the Indian diaspora. There was a cultural welcome of the Indian Prime Minister, and there were some events, or I would say cultural events, undertaken by the Indian diaspora also during his reception. So after a ceremonial reception, bilateral talks one-to-one were there. Obviously they had to be there. Delegation level talks were also there. Delegation involves the foreign minister, the national security advisor, the foreign secretary, the ambassadors and other important dignitaries. Then there was the state banquet hosted by the President for the Indian Prime Minister. Apart from it, the Indian Prime Minister also addressed the Indonesian Parliament, where he met with all the parliamentarians. So this signifies democratic ties between India and Indonesia. Both are democracies, both have parliaments. Then community reception was there. After it was hosted by the Indian community. After all these, things, the Indian Prime Minister visited this temple, which is called as Prambanan Temple visit. It was there. It is basically a temple compound, the largest Hindu temple compound of Indonesia. Are there Hindus in Indonesia? Yes, there are Hindus in Indonesia. And Indonesia, we have a lot of cultural ties like Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam. These are the connecting links in context of religion. And this temple, the Prambanan Temple, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is Indonesia's biggest Hindu temple complex. Now this temple houses deities of Lord Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma. There are also, inscriptions from Ramayana which are there in this temple. So this is a very, very important site in Indonesia. You can see on the board, these are the temples, and obviously the Hindu temple structure is like this. Probably it resembles the Dravida style of temples which are found in South India. Now in this particular visit, on multiple domains or on multiple aspects, there were talks. We will decode each and every one of them one by one. So our partnership with Indonesia is multidimensional. It is a strategic partnership. So strategic is a multidimensional partnership. So what all dimensions are there? We'll see, and on what all dimensions, what all things were talked about. First was political and parliamentary relationship. Regular high level exchanges were there. Parliamentary dialogue has to be there between the parliamentarians. The Indian Prime Minister visited the Parliament of Indonesia as well. Second is defense. It has to be there because it is a compulsory component of strategic partnership. We talked about defense dialogue and exchanges, joint training exercises like Garud Shakti and all. We do multiple exercises with them. Then defense industry cooperation. We also talked about exporting BrahMos missile to Indonesia. So Indonesia is in advanced stages of receiving that missile, and it will become the second country in the ASEAN bloc to receive BrahMos missile. The first one was Philippines in 2024. The Philippines already has a BrahMos missile. Then maritime sector, maritime domain awareness, joint patrols and exercises, port calls and hydrographic cooperation. Again, location of Indonesia, the maritime resources with Indonesia make us natural partners of each other. That is why cooperation on this domain. Counter terrorism and security. See, Indonesia is one such country which has the highest number of Islamic population. No other country in the world has more Islamic population than Indonesia. So this becomes very, very important. Radicalization, then anti-India narrative, those become very vital factors, and that is why it is important to cooperate with each other on this domain as well. Cyber and digital cooperation. Cyber and digital cooperation, definitely India's advancements in the digital domain definitely make India one of the global leaders over here. And India is ready to support many countries. Indonesia also we are ready to support. Digitalization is getting diffused more and more in the society, and hence there is a need for partnering in this domain as well. Then economic and trade cooperation. This has to be there. This is one of the most vital components. So India and Indonesia bilaterally do not have a free trade agreement, but the trade happens through a free trade agreement which is called as ITGA, ASEAN India Trade in Goods Agreement. It is a free trade agreement between all the 11 ASEAN countries and India. Earlier there were 10 countries in ASEAN. Last year, with the inclusion of East Timor or Timor-Leste, 11 countries are there, and trade happens with them under ITGA. Then critical minerals. As we discussed earlier also, critical minerals are those minerals which are very, very essential for socio-economic development, defense and environment conservation. So we are talking about critical minerals with Indonesia. Indonesia has reserves of critical minerals. Indonesia also has semiconductor chip manufacturing capabilities. So for this we are talking with them. Lithium, nickel, cobalt, these kind of critical minerals are also there. Then health, pharma, food and fertilizer. Indonesia is demanding affordable pharmaceuticals from India. India is known as the pharmaceutical capital of the world. Pharmaceutical capital means we are the largest producer of generic medicines, which we supply to many countries in the world. Indonesia is also demanding it. Then vaccine and health cooperation. India has developed vaccines for multiple diseases. Like lately we have developed vaccine for cervical cancer. So in this domain we will collaborate with each other. Food security and agriculture, fertilizer supply and technology. We will get fertilizer supply from Indonesia. This is what we agreed to. Then energy, renewable energy cooperation, oil and gas collaboration, energy transition and efficiency. Energy transition is basically where we are transitioning from fossil based fuels to non-fossil based fuels. So we are collaborating with each other because we have to diversify our energy collaboration basket. Then infra and connectivity. We are talking about building infrastructure over there. We are also talking about increasing our port presence in the Sabang port. Where is Sabang port? This is basically the Sabang port over there. This is India. This is Andaman and Nicobar Island, and this is the location of Sabang. Now we need to know one thing over here. India is not going to construct the Sabang port, it is already constructed. India is going to increase its presence on the Sabang port in the form of or for shipbuilding, employment generation activities, cargo handling and such kind of things. And the best part is that this Sabang port is in vicinity with the Strait of Malacca. This is the Strait of Malacca, you see. And Sabang port is at the tip of Strait of Malacca. This will enhance our maritime presence over there, a place from where China's trade flows a lot. So this is going to be a game changer for us. Then space. We have fairly developed space program under ISRO. We are known for cheap satellite launches in the world, and we want to do it for Indonesia also. And last was cultural cooperation. Hinduism, Buddhism, even Islam, they are the connecting links. So we need to further deepen this cultural partnership. Now someone asked a ministry official that what is the ultimate objective of this visit of the Indian Prime Minister to Indonesia. He gave a one-line answer and he said that the objective is to further deepen the already existing comprehensive strategic partnership. So in this way we are deepening, or we are aiming to deepen, the comprehensive strategic partnership. So on all these domains, discussions were there, but yes, overall significance for India of this visit, it will strengthen India's Act East policy. This Act East policy is a foreign policy of India which was launched in the year 2014 by the Indian Prime Minister. It aims to integrate India with ASEAN plus East Asia plus Australia plus New Zealand. On what aspects? Economic integration plus cultural integration, because there are a lot of cultural similarities, plus strategic integration. So visit to Indonesia, since Indonesia is in this grouping, this is the significance. Enhances maritime influence of India. Again, port presence on Sabang port will definitely enhance our maritime presence. Secures critical mineral supply chain. We talked about nickel, we talked about cobalt, we talked about rare earth elements also over there. Deepens ASEAN engagement of India. For Indonesia, what is the significance? It supports industrial development in Indonesia. A lot of Indian industries can open their bases over there. Attracts investments in Indonesia, because we've talked about such kind of projects where Indian industries will be opening their bases in Indonesia. It promotes digital transformation. As I said, that India has gained significant strides in digitalization, and India is helping many countries in the world to digitize their economy, their society. For the Indo-Pacific region, what is the significance? It reinforces regional stability in the region by giving confidence to some countries like Indonesia. It strengthens maritime security of this region. Why it is needed? Maritime security because China indulges itself in expansionist policies or expansionist activities in the South China Sea, which impacts countries in the ASEAN region. Promotes a rules-based order, which China does not obey. So this is what it means. Now just try to connect the dots also. We've covered India's, Indian Prime Minister's visit to Seychelles. We've covered 16th India-Japan summit. Now we've covered visit to Indonesia. So what is the Indian leadership trying to achieve through its engagements, through its recent engagements, I would say. So Seychelles is over here, Indonesia is over here, Australia is here, New Zealand is here. So this particular arc the Indian Prime Minister covered. Very recently. Although we'll cover Australia and New Zealand, but you see this region, the Indian Ocean region. The message is loud and clear that we want to extend our influence in the entire Indian Ocean region. China, its expansionist tendencies definitely are a problem for many countries over here in the ASEAN region. Many countries like Philippines and all. And China wants its trade routes to be secure. This is that trade route which China follows. Chinese products, if they have to come to South Asia, West Asia, Africa or Europe, they pass through this Strait of Malacca. They follow this route. And China's expansionist tendencies in this domain, that is South China Sea, is a big problem. So it is important to give confidence to these countries that India is with you. Probably countering China is one of the objectives. And increasing India's influence in this region. Although the government will never say this thing that we want to counter China. That will be kind of, defensive strategy. We want to expand our influence in this region, that is Indian Ocean region or Indo-Pacific region, we can say. So this is what you can do by connecting the dots. UPSC will ask questions from these, I would say, fundamentals. It will make you connect various dots. So yes, you should be ready for it. Now coming back to Indonesia, a very vital country in ASEAN. Very vital due to its location because Strait of Malacca is over there. Very vital to counter China. Very vital to increase India's presence in the Indian Ocean region. Vice versa, India is also very important for Indonesia. So we should understand the importance for each other. We should respect territorial integrity and sovereignty of each country. We should respect the international order and we should pursue the Indo-Pacific goal, that is to establish a free, open, inclusive and prosperous Indo-Pacific. This is all from my end in this video. I will now be meeting you in other videos and I will be discussing the Indian Prime Minister's visit to Australia and New Zealand. Namaste, Jai Hind.